FR-55591 is a telephone number that was written in Lee Harvey Oswald's address book. And I don't know where this graphic came from, but I'm going to read what it says there about the phone number. Equals Kenneth Cody, bus driver and uncle of Joe Cody, Dallas Police Department, friend of Jack Ruby, per January 1968, Ramparts, page 63. Haven't seen verification. For one reason or another, the 26 volumes did not provide a systematic identification of the numbers in Oswald's address book, even though he is their sole candidate for assassin. I have seen this claim, this assertion widely made that this phone number does belong to Kenneth Cody, and I have seen it nowhere refuted, nowhere disputed. Nobody says it's not. I haven't been able to verify it myself, but I think this is probably a fact. I have access to a 1961 Dallas directory, and it does say there's a Kenneth Cody in there, and he is a bus driver, as is claimed. And there is another Cody just above him there, which is Joseph R. Cody, who is in the city police department. So apparently the relationship is confirmed. The numbers here are address numbers, they're not telephone numbers. This 1961 directory is not really a phone directory, it's a street directory, and only businesses who want their phone numbers in there have phone numbers, apparently. Now, I don't trust Barry Earnest at all, but in his book, The Girl on the Stairs, he said at the prompting of Penn Jones, and this must have been back in the day, that he was told about Kenneth Cody's phone number being in Oswald's address book, and he went and confronted Kenneth Cody with this information, and Kenneth Cody essentially confirmed it was his phone number, said he'd been asked about it a lot, and said he didn't know why Oswald had it in his address book, but speculated that because he had some land for sale in Oak Cliff that Oswald might have written down his phone number, as if Oswald was in the real estate market at the time. But that's what we get from Barry Earnest. And this is a graphic I made, and as it shows here, this phone number actually appears on 2 pages, and these happen to be the only 2 pages that Lee Oswald wrote his name on, or where his name is written in the book. And in both instances, the relative orientation of the phone number is approximately perpendicular to Oswald's name. It seems like perhaps this is being marked out for Oswald's memory, that this important phone number is the phone number he calls for something, because he's including his name on that page, and perhaps because it's running in the other direction, that it marks it out for him. My speculation. Now, Joseph Cody, the police officer nephew of Kenneth Cody, the bus driver, whose phone number is in Oswald's address book, by his own account, according to this FBI report, during the Korean War was a military intelligence officer. And at the same time, he was living in Dallas, and at the same time, he knew Jack Ruby, and this is in the 1950s. And Cody said that he spent time ice skating with Jack Ruby. Cody also stated that he, Cody, had been a hockey player, and he goes out to Fair Park and skates occasionally. He stated that Jack Ruby prides himself on his fighting prowess and tries to stay in pretty good shape, and that Ruby also goes out and skates. Cody stated he had never gone out with Ruby socially and had never made previous arrangements to go skating with Ruby, but he estimated there had been at least a half a dozen times in the last 2 or 3 years that Ruby had arrived at the fair park while he, Cody, had been skating. Cody stated that on these occasions they had skated together, that Ruby was not in the pro class, but he was a much better skater than average. Cody stated he was sure Ruby did consider him a friend, and added Ruby liked to be in a position of having police officers for friends, although Ruby never asked or expected anything from policemen to Cody's knowledge. Cody further stated he had heard Ruby carried a gun and imagined it was true, although he had never personally seen a gun on Ruby. But he had personally purchased the gun for Ruby that was used to kill Oswald, and apparently, even though it doesn't say so in that FBI report, this was well known by the time Joe Cody died. As you can see here, it is mentioned in his obituary. So while it may be technically true that Cody never saw Ruby carrying a gun, this seems like a lie in his 1963 FBI interview report. It's a lie by omission. He never saw Ruby carrying a gun, but he actually purchased the gun for Ruby, the gun that was used to kill Oswald. Now, there's a story he purchased it in 1960, and the reason he did, because as a police officer, he wouldn't have to pay a tax on it, and he actually purchased it in his own name with the intent of providing it to Ruby. Presumably, Ruby gave him the money for it. But I think this is very dishonest that this is not mentioned in the FBI report. And as to the ice skating here, apparently there's a skating rink at Fair Park. And Cody, with Captain Suter, helped create the Criminal Intelligence section of the Dallas Police Department, which had an office at Fair Park, where Cody did his skating with Jack Ruby, and where Don Stringfellow sent out his information on Lee Harvey Oswald to Army intelligence on the day of the assassination. So, while he's skating with Ruby, he's not far from his work. So even though Cody, according to the FBI report, had been in Dallas on the day of the assassination, 2 days later, when Oswald was shot by Ruby, he was flying an airplane over Lake Bistineau near Shreveport, Louisiana. That's what he was doing when Ruby shot Oswald with the gun that Cody had bought for Ruby. He was flying an airplane. He was the pilot of the airplane in Shreveport, Louisiana. So Oswald has the phone number of this guy's uncle in his address book, written twice, in a way that suggests that this is an important number for him to be able to find. That guy's nephew, the guy who bought the gun that was going to be used to kill him, the guy who's buddies, essentially, with Jack Ruby. They didn't go on double dates, but they went ice skating together. I mean, come on now. This is something that certainly should have been investigated, and it's very suggestive that Oswald used this phone number to relay messages to Jack Ruby. So this insulates the policeman Cody from Oswald. Oswald doesn't talk to the policeman. He talks to the policeman's uncle. This insulates Ruby from Oswald, because even though I think Oswald and Ruby do get together personally, Oswald isn't calling Ruby at the Carousel Club. He's not getting messages to him directly. I think he's relaying messages through the Codys. And Cody can go ice skating with Jack Ruby and relay the message, or whatever it is, however they did it. So I think that's what's going on with this phone number in Oswald's address book. And I think it suggests also that Cody is Ruby's contact, that Ruby deals with Cody, and Cody deals with the higher level of the conspiracy that murdered the president. And it wasn't investigated during the investigation by the professional investigators, the FBI, the Warren Commission, the Dallas Police. None of them knew a thing, apparently. None of them knew how to investigate anything, apparently.